House Media. Sherry, how are you? I know you're excited about our guest and how you got to meet him, and I'm excited to learn about him today.
I am excited about our guest today. His name is Lou Velosi, and he has wow, a background that is unbelievable. It's a project going on right now. 26 years in law enforcement. He worked with U.S. Marshals. He worked with the Immigration and Naturalization Service. And then for the last 2 decades in his law enforcement career, he was with ATF and he was an undercover agent and only undercover agent in history that's bought over 1,000 illegal guns. So I mean, he has he's a somebody that you're just proud to get to know because he's done so much and he's faced like the Chicago Mafia, some outlaw bike groups, murder for hire. He's done a lot of things that like to talk to him about. But one thing I want to know, and I think a lot of people would know want to know this too. How did you get into undercover work, Lou?
Well, I graduated college with a degree in economics and business. I barely made it through and had no interest in either economics or business. And I had taken a job at a bank making about $8 an hour, just shuffling papers in a room with no windows. And I was miserable. And I just happened to get a phone call from a buddy I went to college with and I had played ball with. And he was down in the Bronx and he said, "Man, you sound miserable. Why don't you come visit me after work?" So I drove down there and he was staying at his brother's house. And we were sitting on the stoop and this Corvette pulls up. And remember, this was like Miami Vice days. And this guy gets out of the Corvette and he's got the long flowing hair and kind of like an open shirt. And I can see he's got a Beretta pistol stuffed in his waistband. And he was just like one of the coolest looking dudes I had ever seen. I was like, wow, this guy's something. And we went inside. That was his brother. We had some beers, and he told me he was a DEA agent, and he had been working undercover. He'd just gotten back from Peru, and we talked for about a half hour. He told me, what he could tell me about his job, and I found direction in my life at that point. I said, "Man, this is what I want to do. I could be an undercover agent." And you don't just become an undercover agent. Obviously, you got to pay your dues. So probably about 8 years after that conversation with that guy, I found myself doing my first undercover deal.
Wow. Okay. And undercover, as we watch on TV shows, is it really like that? Where you kind of pretty much are hidden from the world, like in different things and stuff like that? I'm wondering that because I mean, I couldn't imagine where you basically are away from your family, away from everyone when you're doing undercover work.
It is for sure. The only thing that television and movies don't portray is, they make it very glamorous. If you watch all that in the movies, and there's always, they're doing deals on yachts with supermodels and driving Lambos and all that. And it couldn't be any different than that. There's nothing glamorous about it. It's a dirty, dirty world. You're not in mansions doing deals. You're usually in trailer parks or the projects, and you're driving an old hoopty, and there's no supermodels. There's crackheads usually, and it is hard. It's hard. You're away from home all the time. Your hours are terrible, but it is the most rewarding job that I could have ever chosen.
Yeah, and now you've taken that, like all of your years in law enforcement, and you're using it still. I mean, you're retired, but you wrote a book, which we're going to talk about, but you also have a television show on ID television called Operation Undercover, which, by the way, FYI, I really like it a lot. Big fan of it. It's a great show. Tell us about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind of got I got a second chance to be involved again in the undercover world. We kind of created this concept, and it streams. It's on HBO Max and it's on Discovery Plus. It shows live on ID. And our idea was that we wanted to show people the real, that grimy world I was talking about of undercover work. And we didn't want to do recreations. We wanted to show them the real thing. So ID loved the idea, and we made the show, and we were able to embed ourselves with the undercover units of different police departments and sheriff departments around the country. And they let us right in. And when you watch the show, you're going to see real undercover officers, real confidential informants doing real undercover transactions. And you'll see the case from start to finish, like how, when the police get a tip or they get a call or a confidential informant gives them information, what they do with it, then how they go about conducting these undercover transactions with the bad guys, whether it's fentanyl, meth, illegal guns, human trafficking, whatever it happens to be. You'll see the actual transactions undercover. And then we close it out with what they do about it. They get search warrants, they get arrest warrants, and the SWAT teams come in and take these people down. And this is all real, and it's all as it's happening. It's pretty cool.
It sounds really cool. And did, were you recruited, or did you kind of pitch the idea to get the deal?
I was recruited by a producer, and we kind of put the concept together. The producer, the production company, took it to ID, and ID said, "Man, we love it. Let's do it." And I mean, it just couldn't have worked out better. It was, because there I was back in the car, with the undercovers, with the cover team, and I felt like I was back in the action. Obviously we don't cover some of these long-term, deeply embedded cases like I did, because you couldn't fit that into a 42 minutes of a show. So we do the faster undercover, where they maybe get the information, they do 2 or 3 undercover buys, and they kick the door in and take them down.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a really good show. So what channels and times can people watch them? The different platforms?
So it shows on ID, during the season. We did a full first season at 10 o'clock on Tuesday nights. And then you can stream all the episodes on Max, HBO Max, anytime. Just type in Operation Undercover. And you can also stream it anytime on Discovery Plus.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a good show. But you also have something else exciting. You've written and published a book called Storefront Sting, an ATF agent's life undercover. And that's just kind of snowballed on you. Tell us what
Yeah.
it really has a great premise. Tell us about the book and what's going on with it.
The end of my career was a bit of a train wreck. I had worked undercover for much too long, almost 2 decades. And both my personal life and my professional life kind of came crashing in on me. Some bad decisions, and unfortunately, it's very common with men and women who do it for too long. Um, you're somebody else for so many years, and you're dealing on a day-to-day basis with people that are nothing like the people in your family or your friends, and you change. You can't help it. So, I went out after 26 years. I felt I still had some life in me, but I went out and not well. And a homicide detective friend of mine said, "Man, you got to write a book." He said, like, what you've been through and your story. He said it's so different. He was kind of telling me to do it as more of a mental exercise, I think. So I did. I put it together. I didn't go into huge detail. I didn't want to give anybody up or anything like that, but I kind of told the story. And next thing I know, it started gaining traction. I got a publisher, and then they put me on the cover of a few magazines, and I started doing a lot of shows and podcasts. And then a big Hollywood company bought my life rights, and they currently have my life rights based on the book at Netflix. They're reviewing it for a scripted series, and that's when those producers found me, for the investigation discovery show. And in the book, I pretty much just kind of detail how I started. I started doing very street level undercover work, and that's the way to do it. You pay your dues. You're buying a stolen gun in an alleyway from a gang member. You're buying eight ball of cocaine, just small undercover deals. And this is how you build, like any other job, any other profession. You work your way up. I knew I eventually wanted to do these long-term, deeply embedded, all over the country undercover operations. But I spent years and years kind of building my resume and my skills and my expertise by doing the small to medium undercover work. And I kind of detail that. Then I went into all sorts of murder for hire, outlaw biker gang investigations, the Italian mafia, and then into these storefront operations, which were real big, extensive undercover operations. And I just kind of tell the progression of my undercover career in the book, all the way up to the end in the crash. I talk about my informants. I talk about all that stuff.
How can you, from being undercover, especially with these big or against these big organizations, be public still as you, if you were part of those and they wouldn't come back to you at one point in time?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple answers to that, and I get asked that all the time. First of all, federal court is open. So as soon as a case gets taken down, they know exactly who you are. It's all in the paperwork, your name's in the reports, your agency, it's open records. So when they get discovery, the defendants, they get everything. They get all your information. So there's really no hiding at that point anyway. And then, you kind of have a decision to make at the end of your career. You either stay in hiding, right? Move out to the middle of nowhere, or you go so public that you'd almost be daring them to do something. And most of these organizations, the reality is, whether it's the Hells Angels or the mob or the Gangster Disciples, they don't want to bring any heat on themselves by going after a retired federal agent, right? If you burn them, they just move on. They don't want to bring any extra heat on their organization because they're actively involved in ongoing criminal operations. They're selling drugs, they're selling guns, they're doing human trafficking.
But you got to be looking over your shoulder all the time still.
I am, always. Yeah, you keep your head on a swivel. That's just part of it. You get notified by the U.S. Marshals when some of your defendants are getting out of prison, and for me, that's happening a lot now. But yeah, you keep your head on a swivel, for sure.
Lou, with all of that you're doing since your retirement, the shows and the books and all that, what do you think the main message is you want readers and viewers to walk away from with your ventures?
What I hope that the viewers get out of the show, especially Operation Undercover, is that even though law enforcement has had a really tough run in the last 5 years, right? With all the defund the police and bad press, it hasn't affected what these men and women are doing. They are still out there risking their lives day in and day out. And they're not doing it for money because, we don't get paid a lot. They're doing it because they actually care about the communities that they serve, and that they live in. So even though law enforcement has really taken some hits over the years, and some of it may be justified, some of it not justified, these people don't care. These men and women are still out there going undercover, going up against the cartels, outlaw bikers, street gangs, and they're buying drugs, they're buying guns, they're gathering evidence to get these people off the street, to lock them up. And these are the trigger pullers that they're going after. So I want that to be the message that, the men and women of law, they're not the bad guys. They're still doing this work, and they're doing it just to protect the community. That's the whole reason why they're doing it. And they're still out there doing it. Even after getting kicked pretty hard over the last 5 years, they're still doing it. And I want to bring attention to that.
Wow.
Definitely a thankless job.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the money's not there either. So
No.
how do you get certain people that could turn to crime, or you turned to not crime? You kind of went rock bottom from all the challenges, but other people go and work for that person. And then there's a lot of dirty. So do you believe that these things you see on the TV shows, there are a lot of dirty cops still, or some out there?
And
Especially,
It is, are there? Yes. But is it a very small percentage, like 0.00, 1 percentage? It is, that's what you hear about, but that's the only thing that gets reported. It doesn't get reported the cop that does, 100 great things in his 8-hour shift. That doesn't get reported. You just hear about that tiny percentage. Are there, are there some bad doctors out there who have really messed people up? Yes. But do we want to get rid of all the doctors?
No.
No, right? So, like any other profession, of course, you're going to get some unqualified people who slip through the cracks, maybe have bad intentions from the start, or get corrupted while they're in. But it is such a tiny percentage. It's and most people, the vast majority of men and women who swear that oath and take that badge and gun and go out there and risk their lives every day, they're heroes and they're doing it for the right reasons.
Totally. Hmm. And I mean, I couldn't imagine what you've sacrificed, right, Sherry?
Yes, yes, it's
But you're a former police officer yourself. You sacrificed some stuff before becoming a publisher,
yeah,
right?
yeah, a little bit, yeah. But yeah, I just think what you're doing, everything you're doing, is just very exciting.
Yeah, the general public really doesn't know much, and obviously, just because of the nature of undercover work, about what undercover work really is. And we don't put that information out for obviously for operational security, but we don't give up any trade secrets in this show. I didn't give up any trade secrets in my book, but you can still tell the story about the things that happen, about when people have hired me to kill somebody else. What is going on out there, and I think what a lot of people, when you watch Operation Undercover, what you're going to be amazed at is that we did not film in a big city any of the episodes. Probably the biggest city we filmed in was Colorado Springs, and that's not a huge city.
Right.
We were in smaller towns: Pueblo, Colorado, St. Charles, Missouri, Winchester, Kentucky,
Mhm.
Oxford, Alabama. I can't remember all of them. Pickens, South Carolina. And these small cities, small towns, people will be amazed at the crime that's going on, and the reach of the cartels, how the cartels, we're in these small towns and there's undercover officers doing direct deals with cartel members. And these are, this isn't New York or Miami or LA.
No,
This is Winchester, Kentucky, and they're dealing directly with cartel members. People are going to be so surprised at how embedded some of these criminal organizations are in all of America, not just the big cities. There's crime in your neighborhood in rural areas. It's, I mean, it's amazing. It's not. It's a little bit alarming, but it's opening people's eyes, I believe.
it seems like it's definitely opening people's eyes for sure. And Sherry, I'll have to definitely check out the show. Is there going to be a second season, Luke? Or are you, where do you, yeah.
That's a great question. We will know this month. So any show you're doing, you're not guaranteed a next season. At the end of the season, our season wrapped up in December, so they have to compile all the numbers, the streaming numbers, and the ratings, and we will know this month. We're all very hopeful. The ratings seem to be really good. People loved it. It's never been done before, and I really believe the people love seeing the real thing. Uh, I know when I watch actors kind of portraying what happened, these reenactments, it's always a little bit of a letdown. With this show, you see it. They're going to blur out the undercover's face, obviously, but you see the hand-to-hand transactions. Here he is. He's buying 2 stolen Glocks off a bad guy. It's really cool. So we're hoping, and I'll let you guys know. Hopefully, here in a week or two, if there's a
Okay, it's
season two.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's I'm a reviewer. Here's from a reviewer. It's a great show, so go check it out.
Any other questions you have, Sherry, for Lou?
No, it's just that, as you talk about it, I guess, you get to experience and visualize how true life is stranger
Yeah.
than fiction on
Yeah.
a lot of things.
And Lou, how many
People wouldn't
shows
even
are out there
know.
that are crime shows on TV, like movies and television? It's big time. It's like huge. And now a true crime. That's the
Yeah.
even crazier thing, what's happening with true crime, right? That's become larger than life for the wrong reasons, I'm sure, because you've seen some pretty awful things, haven't you, Lou?
Well, I guess, fortunately for the networks, there's never-ending material with crime. Um, Unfortunately for us as citizens, there's never-ending material. But when you think about what TV networks want, they want suspense, they want drama, they want people who can't wait to stream that next episode or get through the commercials to see what happens. And with crime, that's what you get. When someone is hiring, doing a murder for hire, or whatever the crime may be, it's there. There's everything. It's got all the elements that the networks are looking for is there. And unfortunately, we've got a lot of crime here in America. So there's a big pot to draw from.
Have they ever asked you to be a consultant on any of these shows?
Um, I have a lot of my um, undercover partners have been consultants on some movies, Den of Thieves, the Miami Vice movie, those. But I've never gotten asked to be a consultant. I think it's a little bit harder when you had an undercover career because you're a lot less known, just because of the very nature of what we did. So maybe now
You're
that
known
my
now.
name's
You're
getting
known
out there,
now. You're known
yeah,
now. So there you go. So he wants to be a consultant. He just said it on the show.
yep.
So if people were checking it out, it's amazing like how I got discovered by this one thing that they're ready to pick me up with Adobe for my show based on AI. Like they like all the celebrities I've interviewed, and it's just something else. It's not. And I'm like, oh, and it was just basically doing content. If you put content out there and you tell people I want to do it, you never know who's going to contact you next. And that's the big story. So Lou's saying contact him. He wants to be a consultant. Maybe you could take this story looks like movie as well. I said you already have the story for the movie. I could see it as a series or everything. So it's already been bought. I could just see it
Yes.
being here soon. Just got to wait, right? We need so much content that they're not giving us enough and streaming networks, and that hopefully is going to be fixed soon. I talk to my actor friends, and they tell me it's going to happen. We're going to be on a roll soon. It was just so many strikes have just slowed things down.
Well, one thing I've learned since my second career here in the entertainment industry, since I'm just trying to get through that door, nothing moves fast in Hollywood. I
No.
mean, a snail's pace. It is slower than the government, which was pretty slow. And but my story with these storefront operations, I had a different undercover crew. Each operation was about a year, maybe longer, and we would set up these fake businesses in really crime-ridden areas, and we would just infiltrate the entire criminal community, buying guns, buying drugs, uh, doing home invasion crews, and then we would move on to the next city with a new undercover crew. So it's kind of tailor made to one of these Netflix type scripted series.
I think so, for sure. Best place people can connect with you, Lou. Where can they go?
I'm on Instagram, just under my name, Lou Veloze, Louvaloze. Same thing with Facebook. I have a website, again, just my name, louveloze.com. And yeah, if anyone's out there looking for a consultant, come look me up, reach out.
All right. And Sherry, go to storehousemediagroup.com right now. Check out Sherry's the one-stop shop when it comes to everything in marketing and books and movies. So appreciate it, guys. Thanks again.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Lou.
much. It's been
All
an
right.
honor.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Storehouse Media Group.